Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Pitch Please.
Wow!
Wow. This is
Whoa!
the podcast where people who play games pitch ideas to people who make them. Do you like that tagline, Tom?
I do like that tagline. It works.
I think we need to workshop it a bit.
Okay, how about everyone at the same time says pitch, please?
And
Pitch,
we snap our fingers in three
Yeah.
clicks.
But no one
Right.
knows who these people are yet, Tom.
Well, that's fine. You'll figure them out from their voices as we all say 1, 2, 3.
Pitch, please.
I
Tim
don't like
Shannon.
that.
You don't
No,
like
he's
it?
not
Okay.
in.
No.
All right, we are joined by. I don't
Hello.
like that idea, Will.
I'm Will. I made a game once, and that's it.
Perfect. We're also joined by.
Greg, I also made a game once.
That's it. Okay.
Although, Will, you've made 2 games now.
I released another game this very week, actually, Greg. Have you played it?
No, I haven't.
Oh, God's sake.
I
Right,
see.
move on.
And also, finally,
Hello, I'm Brunch Club developer and amateur paleontologist, Chris Hills.
There's another
Amateur-
one.
amateur paleontologist.
Yeah.
I'd
And,
love to see your CV.
Yeah, it's big.
It's like 20 pages.
Big and useless.
CVS receipt.
No one knows him. I'm Alex, and this is Tom.
Oh, hi, I'm Tom. Yeah, sorry. And I'm the idea guy, the pitch hole guy.
Yeah.
The guy
so
that invites people into my mossy, damp, really horrible, grungy, disgusting, filthy, ragged.
but
awful-
sometimes there's
Ravaged.
I'm not done. I'm not done. Gruesome,
Yeah.
grueling,
Any good ones in there?
shiny,
Sometimes,
glistening.
sometimes there's oil in there, though.
Yeah,
Sometimes you
is
come out with
glistening a
oil.
nice one though? If you went into a cave and it was glistening, would you turn away from it?
I feel like your pitch hole is a bit like. Have you seen the Daniel Day-Lewis film There Will Be Blood?
Yeah.
The opening of that, and he is. It's like a completely silent 15-minute scene of him going down into this oil hole that he's blown up, and he's like he ends up coming out with like a broken leg and he has to crawl across the desert, but he's
So-
struck gold
So
basically.
you think my pitch hole is a thing that Daniel Day-Lewis has blown up and it's filled with oil?
He's
It's like an
inside, he
oily
comes out
womb.
filthy.
An
He's like
oily
he's a
womb.
broken
Yeah.
man.
From which you birth game ideas.
Oh God. Anyway, hi. Who wants to hear today's wonderful game idea?
Me, all of us. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
yes.
Anyone else?
Yeah, why not?
All right,
we're
so
here, aren't we? Might as
Can you
well.
do it in There Will Be Blood accent?
what
Yeah,
is
please.
the There Will Be Blood accent? Because I lied when I said I had seen it.
Okay, so
These
Um,
humble hills,
yeah,
Oh.
you drank my milkshake.
Oh, okay.
it's that guy.
So today's idea.
It's just your voice.
That's
it's
my
just your
old man voice. Today's idea is
Yeah.
it's a roguelike. We
Oh,
love
yes.
them.
Right.
Yeah, we
They're
do
always
that.
I'm
good.
in.
It's a game in which there is an explorer. He goes into a cave and he tries to blaze it, and he's trying to
Uh-oh.
collect
Hang on a
items and go
second.
through. However,
I love it.
you like it? However, that character that's going in to explore the dungeon and kill monsters and get fat loot, he is AI controlled. You are the overlord of the dungeon, a dungeon defender, if you will, who you're able to, before the level begins, place monsters from your roster of creatures.
Oh.
You put traps in. You basically have a generated level, and you are like, okay, so if the gold treasure vault is here, the AI is going to take this route to get there. You're basically placing almost like a turret defense kind of thing to
Right.
put monsters down to stop the AI controlled hero
Okay.
from getting there. However, at the end of every level, if the hero succeeds or dies, he levels up. So you have to gradually get even stronger and stronger and get bigger defenses to stop
Wait,
this
so
hero.
whether he succeeds or dies, he levels up.
I mean, it's like a roguelike, right? Like any gold he picks up,
Okay.
he will then,
right.
out of your knowledge, level up, power himself up, and be stronger next time round. If he beats you, however, and gets a ton of gold, he gets stronger and stronger. More, maybe stronger than you, to a point where it's impossible to win against him. I don't know. So you have like a roster of monsters and traps, and you
Yeah.
can hire little things. You can pay, I've got like 100 gold, I'll buy an ogre and put that in there.
So it's like Orcs Must Die in terms of like you place and there's in Orcs Must Die, obviously there's a whole shit.
Well, how
ton
does
of-
that? Can you describe that game?
I can. In Orcs
Good.
Must Die, there's like you have like a start round, so you have a point where they need to get to,
Yeah.
the orcs, and then you place like spike traps or slow traps, and there's like a swinging ball of doom.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you don't get to run around while that's happening, do you? Do you watch? Because
No, you do, because in Orcs Must
Yeah, you
Die,
do.
you
Okay,
can
yeah.
shoot the orcs as they're coming in.
'cause there's
Same as
Sanctum
Dungeon Defenders, which is
Sanctum.
why I said that. You place the traps, but you can also, while the wave is happening, shoot and fight your own things as well.
Yeah.
So it's like that. However, I was imagining it almost like a sort of top-down classic dungeon crawling game.
I'm envisioning Dungeon Keeper.
That's what I was thinking as well. I was thinking
in my head it was Cave Blazers.
I was
Right,
thinking
Side on.
two things. I was thinking Dungeon Keeper, and then also there was a game a couple of years ago called The Mighty Quest for Epic Loot.
Yes.
Did anyone see that?
Ubisoft game.
And and that's a free to play game. And the way that works is quite similar in that it's not the same.
It's
but
quite similar in that it's the
you,
same.
you
I think
basically
you-
you have a dungeon and you place traps and things, but it's not an AI. You compete with other players. You play other people's dungeons.
That's the thing. I think in Dungeon Keeper and that Mighty Quest game, you can place rooms, right? You can build
Yes.
the entire dungeon. Whereas in this, you have a cave layout that is randomly generated or whatever. And
So that's the procedural element of it.
yeah,
is it?
so every level you've got like this new cave, and you're thinking like, right, okay, if the treasure vault is here, or maybe you place the treasure vault and you're like, okay, I'll put it in this part of the dungeon, and I'll also surround it with a load of orcs or a load of ghosts and skelly bobs
right.
and traps and things.
I think you should have to place it.
And then and then you
I think
can,
that's
and then you just watch the AI try to navigate to get to the thing, and maybe he gets overwhelmed and killed.
Okay.
But in either case, he gets stronger every time, and maybe it gets to a point where he's like, he comes in and he suddenly uses this new ability, and you're like, okay, I didn't know he had that.
Right.
and-
So he's got like behind the scenes, he's got like a skill tree.
Yeah,
He might be. But maybe you have access. You can see the skill tree, but you can't see what he's investing points
yeah.
in.
Maybe there's certain weapons he picks up. Maybe in a chest he opens up, he suddenly picks up this sword. You see what sword he picks up, and it's like this thing that kills skeletons way easier. And you're like,
Right, I
oh
see.
shit, okay. So I know he's got this thing. Maybe I should stop using skeletons.
So do you get to see at the end of his run, like this is the loot that he got, and this is the amount of gold that he got?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I think.
And then he
Very much
levels
Super
up.
Meat Boy. Yes, in Super Meat Boy, every time you die, and when you complete the level, you see every run happen over and over. It follows the trail of.
Yeah.
That would be quite. I think that would work in a similar way quite nicely.
But yeah, he levels up, he gets more powerful. Maybe later on he brings a companion in, and all of a sudden you have to fight against two things. But over time, you're generating a massive army of these boys,
Right. I see.
Or girls.
or girls, or girls.
Yeah. Come on.
And
2020.
and you're trying to stop them from getting in.
I think this is a great idea. Should we wrap this up?
Yeah,
Fantastic.
All right.
Love it.
Well, that was Pitch Please. Would make would play. Perfect.
Yep, both.
You can give us more suggestions on Pitch Please Pod. Is there any more suggestions than that?
Wait, let's talk sequel.
What?
Yeah, let's make the sequel.
We've made a hit with the first. What are we calling it? Dungeon.
I mean,
Blaze Cavers.
Dungeon
Blaze
Blazers.
Blazers.
Sorry, hang on. Are we just set? That's the game.
Let's talk Dungeon Blazer 2.
Are we not? Hang on a minute.
Electric Boogaloo.
Wait, what are your initial? Greg? What are your initial impressions on this?
Yeah,
How
love
you
it, I'm on
first-
Love
board.
it. Yeah, it's
Yeah?
great.
Are there any
Well,
other? Are there any things that?
No
what do you
changes
get-
needed.
What?
It's perfect.
Okay.
I think it has a very good. Could have very good Steam Workshop support and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
I do feel the AI is, I think, where it's its weakest, and I think asynchronous multiplayer might be the better.
Well,
option.
that's the thing. You could have two players, one person raiding, one person defending, but then you've just got
Mighty
the
Quest for Epic Loot.
Mighty
Yeah.
Quest for Epic Loot game, which I didn't enjoy. I didn't really enjoy
No,
that
I
game.
found it quite dry. But then that's
was-
because it was very simple. There wasn't enough to it.
It was very grid based. You place this room, and then next to that, you're going to place the spike trap room, and
Yeah.
then next to that, you're going to place the fire trap room, and then it was a little bit rigid. Whereas in this, I like the idea that you literally pinpoint place all of these, like, oh, there's going to be goblin, 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 goblin.
like Mario Maker.
Yeah, like Mario Maker. And I think there also needs to be some limitation on how much you can put in, obviously.
Right.
So maybe you do the amount of gold the hero doesn't take, you get, or maybe that makes you too powerful later on if you just floor him round one, and then
Oh, I
round
see.
two, and then round
Well,
three.
yeah, you could do it where the amount of everything costs, right? And then if someone clears that level, they earn the amount that you spent on because the more traps you put in, the harder it's meant to be.
Yeah.
Therefore, they've accomplished more. So what if they earn the amount that you spent on it, and then like everyone has like a global pool of how much gold they can earn over like how much they've earned. That's how you leaderboard it.
Yeah.
It's the harder runs give you more of a reward.
So is that if it was multiplayer?
Well, even it would work either AI as well. Like if you do a really hard one, the AI does it.
Yeah.
Then
okay.
you'd actually, I suppose, it would be the reverse of that, right? Because you'd lose. There wouldn't be a way to gain money.
No. Well, okay. So maybe there are things wrong with this game. I always want there to be things
I'm
wrong
not
with it.
involved if it's got no AI in it.
No,
Yeah.
Because I'm picturing, like, did you ever see the machine learning Mario?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh my God, look at this idiot.
goes,
Like, he
"Ding," and
couldn't
then-
do anything.
Yeah.
Then he started learning. Like, that's my sort of game loop in my head. Like, you're like, oh, look at this idiot. And then he keeps learning.
Yeah.
So in level 1, you place a load of traps, but he's just stood at the door spinning in a circle.
Yeah. Or you build
Well,
like,
he'll just walk into
built
it.
like
and
a
you're
really
"Wah,
elaborate
wah."
dungeon. He won't go past. He can't jump over the first block.
yeah, he falls into a spike trap and like, what an idiot. And
But then
he
next time
jumps
round,
over and you're
he
like,
starts
"Whoa."
to recognize the
Yeah.
spike traps, and you're like, oh,
But does that
right,
not mean
okay.
inevitably that like eventually he's just going to become he's going to learn so much? He'll be like that open AI, for Dota, that Elon Musk's whatever it is company that where they've managed to have that AI that can
Plays
beat the
Dota.
top
Yeah,
players in
but
Dota.
it'd be your creation because you crafted that. It's like,
Right.
that film about the drumming? And
Whiplash.
Whiplash,
Oh,
yeah.
Whiplash,
And
yeah.
He's abusing the little drummer. We're abusing this little adventure. And it's like, well, you may hate me, but I made you.
Okay,
my
so
God,
in
yeah,
level
okay.
1, he literally just beelines straight for the treasure hoard. Doesn't
Yeah,
even
yeah,
fight.
yeah.
Doesn't even avoid traps. But then, say level 10, he's now jumping over traps. He then knows like, oh, this guy that I'm playing against, he likes to put goblins around a corner. So he's like skirting around the corners properly and stuff like that. Eventually, yeah, it will get to a point where this AI is more powerful than anything you
But
can
that-
put down against him.
But is that where the skill tree comes in? So maybe that he can only invest talents that allow him to do. So, for example, say if you like to put if your classic move is I'll put a spike jump and then I'll put a spike pit directly after it. Then there's a double jump that he has to put in. He has to skill into. And
Maybe.
So if you keep putting those, eventually he's going to skill into that. But then that just means you have to change your tactics.
Yeah, exactly.
There's two problems that I
Okay.
see with that. One,
Right.
that's not how machine learning really works.
Okay.
And two, if the way you're explaining it, you'd need a supercomputer like just
What,
around
to
the
play
corner.
the game?
Yeah. So the way most machine learning works is they learn from their mistakes. But they
Okay.
don't really learn. They just go, oh, I did this at this. So the last time I just ran, right? Oh, I died. Okay, so now I'm going to run, jump. But if I jump, there's a spike above me, so I hit that. So now I need to jump less.
Uh-huh.
And they constantly go back and forth, and then they learn basically the perfect route, which is how the Mario one works.
Right.
That's where the Super Meat Boy esque thing comes in, where you just
Yeah.
it's just this guy dying
But
thousands of times.
it doesn't. It
Quick
doesn't go.
succession.
Oh, this guy likes to place traps after jumps. It just goes. There's a trap there. I died. I'm just going to skip that. I'm going to jump over that. It doesn't go. Oh, Tom's a clever boy.
Well, yeah, but okay, but we
Oh.
wouldn't be putting then. Okay, it wouldn't be machine learning. It would be some kind of like false AI that we would have to program. Is that
Rudimentary AI
it's still
learning.
machine learning.
Okay.
It's just not some sort of IBM Watson esque open AI Dota
So
guy
what-
who like imagine has a
So
idea
what you're
that
saying
He's
is
not the
this
lawnmower
is
man.
this
No.
is the game of 2050.
No, we
No.
can't. We can't.
He's worried about the AI becoming racist.
It leaves you messages at the end. It starts shit talking you. Okay, so or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it hasn't got AI learning, but I think I do love the idea that this is the game of 2050. Right? I'm just imagining 30 years from now. Just imagine this game. You are a dungeon diving trainer,
Right.
and you're putting him through these rigorous tests of like, okay, he's going to try and get to the treasure vault. He dies on spike trap. Next time round, he learns to jump the spike trap,
Okay.
but then he falls into a pit. So then he has to try and avoid those.
Yeah.
And then maybe every 10th level or so, he then goes against a real dungeon.
Oh.
So you're training the AI. So what you're essentially doing is you're not fighting the AI, right? You're just trying to put
You're trying to
him
help
through.
them.
Yeah, you're
It's
trying
like
to.
Greg's comment about like I made you. I made you who you are. Which is that's really
Yeah,
cool. So then
so you're not working necessarily against the AI. You're just trying to put him through trial after trial, so that eventually he goes against the real dungeon.
you're like you're dungeon dad.
You're the dungeon daddy.
Dungeon
Oh my God,
Dungeon
Dad.
Dungeon Daddy. I feel like Daddy. It has to be Daddy.
So are you saying that's impossible to make now?
I wouldn't say it's impossible. I just, again, the whole, like saying, he likes to leave traps behind spikes, and then
Right, okay.
I don't think
But how would a
AI
computer?
currently
So what we
is as
can't, what we
smart
shouldn't
as that.
do is say, okay, let's imagine that this would work in 30 years' time, because then we get into the well, let's just force
Also,
them to
you
play
are the
it.
dungeon.
Yeah, well, yeah, then we get down the path of let's just put it in the curriculum, which becomes like not a good part. It needs to be a game that we can make now and that people would actually want to play for.
Again,
because it's good.
you could make it.
Yeah.
I think
And
it
mis-
could be
like,
made,
like-
but I don't think it's widely accessible.
Okay.
If you need a supercomputer to run
Even
this
if it just
AI,
looks like cave
No,
blazes, but you
it's
can
not that you
fucking run
need-
it on.
Like a supercomputer to run the AI. It's what you said at the start, where it evolves. Obviously AI can evolve and learn certain things in games. That's how they do that now.
right?
But the way you were talking of like, he likes to place traps behind this, and he has like a certain technique. I feel like that is a bit of a stretch. Like the Dota one literally does run off several supercomputers.
Oh,
in
okay.
In a like.
So you're saying it's the game of 2020?
You could like with the Super Mario thing, right? So the Super Mario thing is what I imagined, and what I'm sure you were imagining. It jumps, it hits a Goomba, it dies. It knows now not to run into.
Yeah, but
them.
that's a set level, right?
Yeah, but that's the issue. So you'd have to do the runs multiple times anyway. So that's the whole point of the game, right?
Right. Okay.
So it doesn't matter what the level is; you'll still learn it.
So okay, going back to the basic setup of this game, is it that you are some kind of parental figure or some kind of trainer? Actually, no. I think parental figure's good.
I think you are the dungeon daddy,
you're the dungeon daddy.
and you've got this little whelp adventurer
Yeah.
who doesn't know anything. He's just like,
Just
oh,
a
treasure,
fucking
yay,
idiot.
and he runs to the
Yeah.
chest. You're procedurally placing traps and enemies and different things,
Yeah.
and at the end of every run, you can then see how he's progressed, and you're like, maybe as a rudimentary AI thing, maybe he's like, oh, I now know that if I've killed 10 orcs, I know
Yeah.
that orcs are weaker to arrows, for example. So you then get an update of what he has learned. So he's learned spike traps, they come out floor, jump them. Or orcs, they are really bad at being beheaded. Don't do that.
Right. Yeah. And
and-
that's something that can be done, right?
Yeah.
Is that like that's,
So the
we can
more
do that, yeah.
trials, the more
Yeah.
trials you put him through, the better the adventurer gets, and you can see an updated log of what he has learned, and then
Okay.
eventually you say, right now, you have to go take on a real dungeon, and you just
Okay.
watch this character that you've trained go through a dungeon. And
so
see
every
how he
10
fares.
levels or whatever you have a dungeon.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah,
Right,
maybe. Yeah,
or something.
sure. And then maybe when you look at the dungeon and you've got no control of this new dungeon, this
Yeah.
actual dungeon, and you look at it and you're like, oh no, pitfall traps. He doesn't know about
I
those.
didn't teach
yet.
him about those, and that's on me.
Yeah, he doesn't know you need to bless the skeletons to kill them. He
That-
just thinks you just wail on them
That
for an
chest is
hour.
a mimic.
The chest is a
He's got
mimic. I
no
can see it
idea.
from here. He's got no idea. And you just watch him. You just watch him walk towards the chest mimic, and you're like, no!
But you can't do anything
And
about
you can't do anything about it, and he just dies. And you're like,
Okay.
oh, come on.
And then is he permanently dead?
I
it.
mean,
Oh, you just get a new kid that you have to.
So in the
a new
training,
whelp.
he dies and he comes back.
in the training, he
You got,
comes
like,
back.
rubber
It's
spikes
non-lethal
or something.
training. Yeah,
Rub-
so maybe there's a point where you're just like,
It's a
right,
holodeck.
I think you've learned enough. Be free, young grasshopper. And then he goes in and he just gets
just dies straight
demolished
away.
instantly. Yeah.
Nice,
And you're
yeah.
like, oh god, okay, I need a new trainee. I need to adopt a new child to, put through the rigorous trials of the dungeon daddy.
The overarching idea of the game is sending people off to their deaths at different times.
Like, well, yeah, I suppose. But,
But so how about then if every 10 levels, like say, you train up your little whelp, he becomes powerful enough to go on to his first major real challenge, and then there could be some kind of progression element of if your little boy, your whelp manages to succeed, then you as the dungeon daddy gain some kind of reward from that, whether it's like maybe there's some kind of new type of trap or some kind of enemy that he manages to conquer that you then get access to use in the training,
Yeah.
or something else that
I think
like-
you could also have like a little whelp they have different stats as well, because
Okay.
obviously. But maybe there's one that you get, and he's like really weak, really slow, really not the best fighter or anything, but he's really intelligent. And the intelligence has a spark where he like looks at something for the first time and is like, I know this already.
Right.
Or I'm like, I can sort of figure out how to cross this. And if you send him into a real dungeon, you're like, oh shit, I didn't train him on this thing. I didn't train him how to get through this barricade swinging around. And then all of a sudden he rolls through it. And you're like,
An intuition.
man,
power.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's got like,
intuition. Yeah,
he's
yeah.
got intuition. You're like, oh my God, he did it. He did it on his own.
That's my boy.
That's my boy.
Yeah, that's it. That's the feeling we need to try and go for.
Yeah, there's like a random chance that they'll just look at it and just be like, okay, all right. Or oh God. And then you just see him do it for the first time and you're just so proud of
With
him.
a little pause. And you just stand there, no animation, nothing, and then it does it.
Yeah, and you're just looking at him.
Oh yeah, you just see like a little kind of like dot appear, like a little ding above his
Yeah.
head or something.
You just
and
see
then
him stop for a second. You're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you thinking? And then he just succeeds, and you're just so happy that your little boy has learned. Maybe they learn through like there's a tree of traps. So like
Right.
spike trap is one thing, then ceiling spike trap is another thing. Then I don't know, wall spike trap, or maybe there's spike traps that are like alternating in pattern or something like that. But they're all part of the same tree. So maybe
Right.
they learn. Oh, I've seen the floor spike trap, but this one's on the ceiling.
Okay.
Maybe it's the same thing. So they gain
But if they
knowledge
haven't
in
learned
spikes.
it, if they haven't learned it enough, then they might just see the spike trap and jump.
Well,
If
yeah.
it's on the ceiling, they'll jump into.
Well, maybe, sure. But like, I don't know. I like the idea that they have a knowledge of a particular like family of things.
Mhm.
So they have a higher chance of succeeding against different types of that same trap.
Okay.
But they also could just walk into it and just die straight away.
Okay. So thinking of like the lore of this, imagine if if the caves or the dungeons or whatever that you're trying to train to attack are maybe it's basically like an exam that you're practicing for, right? I guess.
Yeah.
So say if it's like the first one is I don't know a castle, Transylvania castle, I don't know something, and in this dungeon there are going to be these kinds of traps or these kinds of enemies,
Yeah.
but I can only train my boy on a certain amount of them, and I have no idea which ones are actually going to show up when he does the run.
Yeah. So you're just hoping to train him in the right thing.
Yeah,
And maybe he'll just intuition his way all the way through it.
yeah.
Stage one. And you're
But then there has to be some kind of, otherwise you could just hardcore push intuition, and then you just get through the whole thing no matter what.
I mean, it has to be like a really slim chance. I would love the idea of just that one little success, so rare of happening, and then it happens, and it's the best.
Does everyone get the same dungeon?
Everyone, every
So if we
everyone you
if we
train.
all played it, right, and we've all got it, we've just booted up, and we've done the first bit of training. We're ready to send him in for his first big dungeon. Do we all get the same layout? Like, do we all have our chance to like compete to?
I think it's procedurally generated. Like if it was Transylvania Castle, right? Like you've then got that set of like, it looks like Transylvania Castle. It's got the same generation method. I don't know what are the words I'm looking for.
Tiles?
Tile
You mean like
set,
tile
tile
set,
set.
like art stuff?
So it's all very similar, but they're not the same.
Right.
And also all the traps in that are then also placed in different ways and different monsters and things, but not so unbalanced that one person could get something full of skeletons, someone could get one that's full of spikes.
Will,
I think it's different enough.
You've done a lot of procedurally generated stuff with tile sets, right? Is that
He's
what
also
Cave Blazers is?
made 2 roguelikes.
Yeah, that as
Wouldn't
well.
that have gone first?
Sure. But I don't know, is this even a roguelike? Surely it's more like a management game. You're like adopting young, supple boys. or girls.
Yeah, it's a roguelike for the
Supple
people
wasn't
you're
needed.
training, but not for you necessarily.
Yeah.
Um,
You can be like a weird dad. It's
yeah,
like
a dungeon dad.
a dungeon dad who's like a treasure hunter, but he doesn't want to do it on his own. He's too old. So he
He's
adopts-
too old. He's
Far
living
too old.
vicariously
keeps
through the sun.
adopting boys and girls and training
Yeah.
them up to go and get this treasure for him.
It's
Yeah.
like the parent pushing the kid to do tennis or football.
He's
or
like a
whatever.
general. He's like training a little army.
Yeah, but kids don't die in tennis.
Yeah, but this is a world where adventurers are common, so it's
kids
fine.
are just
It's fine.
There's too many of them. They're going spare, and I'm just like, yeah, fine. Give me 20.
Well, he's not. He's okay. The kid is of age, so he or she is like
Of
I
age.
don't know, but, of age for an adventure,
I
not
assume,
I don't
yeah.
think
Age.
sexually active.
It's spelunking age.
What's spelunking age?
12.
Well, in this world, what was that? 12.
12. I think 12 is a good
Maybe you
Sri
could
Lankan age.
adopt like a baby, just send them in just to see what the dungeon's like.
Yeah,
They're
I
gonna
feel like
die.
12's too old. He's too big to fit through all the little cracks and stuff. You want to get him
Yeah,
young.
that's true. You should be able to get any age you
Yeah,
want.
but I guess, or maybe every
You can sacrifice a baby to just
maybe
find
every
out,
level.
like a scout.
You just throw one off, see how big the drop is.
Maybe every level
10
is
seconds.
a year, right? So you start with like, I don't know, a 6-year-old, and you put him through a little trial, and then the further you get, the more he learns, but the older he gets, right? So if you spend 20 years training this person, he knows a ton, but he's now 26.
I'm sorry, I got completely lost when you said you start with a 6-year-old and put him through a trial. I just got
This
stuck
game
on that
has gone
sentence.
very dark.
I just maybe I
I
don't
like
know.
it.
However, you could just say 6-year-old run in there
Yeah.
and then just see what it's like. But
Mimic.
What
Bam.
about
he's
if
dead.
you push your kids for too long and they get like 18, 19, there's a risk of them rebelling and staying in that dungeon. And then you've got to send
Oh
the
my
brother
God.
in to hunt them down.
Oh my god!
I mean,
Go get your brother.
But
Oh,
also,
and they become one of the bosses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
you'd be very old. You'd be an old dungeon daddy by that point. If you
No, you're an eternal.
An
oh
eternal
right,
dad.
you're in an
Yeah.
ethereal presence.
Maybe everyone is learning from like a little crystal or something, and you're the crystal dungeon dad.
right.
Yeah,
Um,
you used to be an adventurer, but you were so old you couldn't adventure anymore. You were going to die, and the only way to survive was to infuse your body into a crystal of wisdom.
Yeah,
And
you are the dungeon daddy crystal of wisdom that is teaching new adventurers how to.
Now that's a game title.
Dungeon daddy crystal of wisdom.
Sounds like a Game Boy Advance. Like
Yeah,
I can imagine it on the little cartridge and little pixel art font.
And the thing is, the pixel art is what I'm
purple.
imagining as well,
Yeah.
like the top-down sort of. What was it? Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Mm.
Necrodancer. I don't know why I said it like
Dancer.
that. Crypt of the Necro Ted Danson. And that's the sort of style I was imagining. But yeah, you are a crystal of wisdom that's teaching new adventurers to raid dungeons, and they learn through machine learning.
We've got to keep machine learning in there. We need that Silicon Valley
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
We need the Super Meat Boy meets that one video of Mario that we've both seen.
So, are there any questions, or should we move on to the sequel?
I don't think it should be randomly generated.
Really?
what?
Yeah.
that's why I asked
I think,
about the set runs.
Okay.
You
Agree.
should have like a dungeon, and then you can send a baby in to scout it out.
Will really has a thing against
Really
children.
fixated
And then
on this,
next
don't
time, you know what you're up
Then
against.
maybe
You
the baby can
train
die.
your next adopted child.
So
Yeah.
the optimal strat is to send a child in.
Well, it's not an ethical
It's the
strategy.
optimal but not ethical strat.
And also, it costs money to adopt a new baby. So
This isn't
Okay.
ethical daddy, this is dungeon daddy.
So you start with knowledge. It's costing
Crystal of
1,000
wisdom.
and the life of a child
Yeah.
to scout out
yeah,
the dungeon.
but then
first.
you know what your next kid's going to be up against.
And also, if they're not random, you can make people compete.
True.
If
What-
everyone has
okay.
the same experience, you can make it like you could make it random, but based off a seed that everyone else.
Well, it was some
follows.
kind of like online element, could be, or multiplayer element maybe. Well, not multiplayer, but
synchronous.
you could take your boy
Mhm.
and then make him available online for other people to use.
Share my boy.
Share
Come,
my
come
boy.
Yeah.
share my
Share my
boy.
boy.
Have a look at my smart boy.
Look at it, he's got a nice little hat.
I do like the idea of like a proud father. Like this is my favorite.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, at the end of the game, if you manage to get your little adventurer through every dungeon, you've then got the ability to take a picture with him and share it on Twitter. And
Next to the
everyone can just
crystal.
be
What
like,
about if there's some
Yeah.
kind of auction system?
Whoa! What was
Where
that?
you-
you
no,
can't
hold
buy
on,
my
bear with me
boy.
a second. So
I'm
maybe
done with
if
my
you-
boy.
My boy is no longer supple and young. He doesn't.
My boy's too old.
My
but he
boy's
knows
too
a lot.
No, but if maybe that the gold that you accrue from doing the actual dungeons, you can then go and spend on things like perhaps buying scout babies.
Okay, I did actually think of a hard counter to Scout Babies
Okay.
and that strategy, Fog of War.
Yeah,
So if you send a Scout Baby and it gets like 5 feet, it gets stomped by a skeleton, right?
then at least you know there's a
Yeah,
skeleton.
at least you.
You know there's a skeleton.
There you go.
But like,
Work. And then you send another one in.
but then you don't
Sacrifice
know
was
the
worth it.
rest of the dungeon. Like
No.
you don't know anything.
But-
Also, what if, in terms of auction my boy.
Yeah.
Instead of that, what if you could retire your boy?
Right.
And you're like, okay, I don't want this guy who knows a ton.
My boy has become a
to
man.
my boy, yeah, retire my man, and instead of sending him into a dungeon, you don't want to push him too far and think, oh fuck, maybe I'll lose my boy.
Yeah.
And you then retire him, and then he stands as like a beacon of like the baseline of knowledge, and he then
merges
helps
into your
you.
crystal with you.
He then joins your crystal knowledge,
Okay.
and then
You assimilate him.
and then as a baseline,
Weird fantasy Borg.
and then as a baseline, every future boy now
girl.
knows
I'm
some
sorry.
of what this previous boy knew. So you can then retire your
those.
boys.
I like how PG-13 this approach is. Like, we're not mating him.
No,
he's mixed with the
being
medical.
assimilated.
Yeah, he becomes assimilated with your font of
Maybe-
wisdom.
And you
Maybe you
must
could-
touch his crystal to gain his knowledge.
Exactly.
That's how.
Maybe you could grind him down into like make a little potion out of him or something,
Grind him down
and
into
then you
dust.
feed that to the
You
new
feed that
boys,
to this to his
and they
brothers.
get a little bit of
Thing is,
Yeah.
I like the idea of like the Rogue Legacy style thing where you have you do a run, you get some gold, you come back, you spend it to upgrade your future runs forever. I like the idea that you just grind this boy down into your crystal, and then every future boy knows as much as that last ground down boy.
Yeah.
I am still on board with
like it.
Will's Scout Babies.
I like
think
the
that's
But no,
Scout Babies, yeah.
Fog of War. I've already shut down that idea because Fog of War.
I
You
like the
can
Scout-
do it, sure, but
I don't know. Does anyone else Scout Babies versus Fog of War?
I mean, I
Maybe-
understand the concept of fog of war. I'm not sure I understand the concept of scout. It's not
Great.
something you see often in video games. Do you remember in Civilization? You know, when they,
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
don't
you
worry
have
about
the
that
Scout.
fog of war.
You have the Scout to reveal
the
fog
scout
of...
is a man and a dog, though, not a boy. Not
not
a
a
young
toddler.
boy.
What do you think, Greg?
Yeah.
Scout Baby?
I'm not touching Scout Babies.
I
Okay,
think.
all right,
I mean,
guess it
I
is
think
Fog
it's
of
an
War.
What do you
option.
mean?
I'm
do you
not
mean?
touching Scout
I
Babies.
think it's always an option. You always have the option to send a scout baby in, but I'm just saying, Fog of War is going to make it tough. There's no point.
You might see a couple of rooms or something. You know, I think it's maybe not. You don't see the whole dungeon, but you get a little.
Oh
get a
my
little
God.
Does the
idea.
baby have to
Oh
come
god, you
back?
send a scout baby in, and it intuitions all the way to the end.
Okay, no, we have to have Scout Babies in now because that is possible. If there's like a 1 in a 10 million chance of that happening,
There'll be that
Yeah. It
one
has to be.
YouTube video, won't there?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
100% Scout Baby, no damage.
100% Scout Baby.
People are like,
man.
bollocks, no way, no chance.
Oh, what a speed run that would be. The scout baby run.
Oh, think about all the knowledge you can gain when you grind that boy down.
Oh my god.
So this is a game where.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, did we get? Before I just
Sorry, what is it?
Try and do that. Did we get anywhere with when he was auctioning off children?
No,
What
well,
was
no, that was Tom's idea to then change that into the you assimilate them instead.
Oh yeah, that's
right?
it. Yeah.
You assimilate the
sort
men.
of. I mean, you have a roster of boys, right? And I
Right.
think it's an ever-growing roster.
I think we should
of
clarify
boys.
when we say boys, we do mean girls as well.
And girls, boys
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
girls.
It's just easier to
So
say.
is
just
this, is
easy.
this like almost like you're not squad on XCOM, but you have a reserve of soldiers
Yeah,
or
so you
whatever?
have, I don't know, 100 boys and girls. And
100.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay,
Or
So
maybe
Will looks
maybe you
very
just have
surprised by
that's
that.
too many boys.
maybe
Too
every
many
time
boys.
you're picking a new boy, you can pick from 5. And you
Yeah.
have an infinite list
And
of
you send them
boys. And you pick from 5, you can see their stats. This one's a great fighter. This one's got high intelligence. This one's good at
Sure.
dexterity, so
Yeah.
they can dodge traps easier or whatever. And you're then training that one to be better. It's kind of like the passions in RimWorld, where the more you let them do things, the better they are at it.
Okay.
And then, yeah, you just send that boy forward. If it lives for long enough and you're like, right, okay, he knows too much,
He knows too much.
but I don't want him to die.
Well,
so
hang
then
on,
you
so
can
what-
grind
what is
down.
this-
You can grind your boy.
How does this work? So what is the reason that you would retire? Do they just get to an age where they're like their stats
it's like
sucker
Tarkov.
some kind of
It's like Escape from Tarkov, where you're like, this boy, he has
So, hang on, how
such
does-
good knowledge. So Tarkov, the way Tarkov works is you have, it's like a mini DayZ where you loot stuff, escape the run, you keep the weapons, but then you can
Yeah.
go into future runs with these weapons, and if you die, you lose them forever.
Okay.
This is like that in that you have your high-powered, high-geared boy,
Yeah.
and if you send him in one too many runs and he dies, you lose all that intelligence that you've
Right.
taught him. You lose all the gear that he had. Or you could retire him, grind him, into your font of wisdom.
Okay, yeah, you should just finish that sentence. a lot sooner.
Grind him down into your font of wisdom, and
But
then
you
every
only-
future boy has that knowledge,
But
or some part.
I
of
can
it.
say, yeah, it must be like you only get a small portion of that knowledge because otherwise you would just grind every boy. Grind down.
No, you don't grind every boy.
Sorry,
Okay.
If
Why are
you
we-
can make them into potions or something, you can only drink
What are
a
you?
certain
You're
amount
stuck
of
on this.
What are you-
Or like
I think
meat.
grind them down and snort. Let's
Yeah.
just
Okay, snort. Yeah,
let's just
snort
grind
'em.
them down.
If you shouldn't. I don't think you should get it permanently. You should be able to.
Oh, so it's just you can give the knowledge to one
It's
boy.
a little boy buff.
Maybe
Not one, but like I don't know. A potion has like 5 sips in it. 5
Okay.
gulps.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? And
Yeah.
the effect is temporary or it's permanent to?
It's
whichever-
permanent to the boy.
Probably permanent.
It's a
yeah.
little boy
okay.
buff or
But
a
it's-
boy boon.
But the potion itself is temporary.
But then if
Okay.
you grind that boy down, you don't. He doesn't get you don't get the potion.
You
from
can't.
that.
Yeah, you can't
Potion
grind a
effect.
boy down, have someone else drink the potion, then grind that boy down.
It's just diluted.
yeah,
it's like it's like when you keep,
diluted boy potion.
it's like when you keep recording in a VHS.
yeah.
Make copies of a VHS over and over. it
Eventually,
just
they
turns
start
into-
learning really weird shit.
Yeah.
And turn into a goblin.
I love this game. Actually, I might make it.
Wow.
I might make it next
That's
week.
the most
Go for it.
enthusiastic I've ever heard anyone be. And it's from Will.
Yeah.
Will is the most enthusiastic person on this podcast so far. That's wild.
I'm
Yeah.
flabbergasted.
I might-
What do you like
I've got
about it? Will?
a free week next week. I might
Yeah.
make it.
Weak.
In a week? You don't think much of it then?
I'll knock it out in a week. No
Yeah.
dramas.
Okay.
I think you could.
Greg, what do you think? Any
Yeah,
any
I
any
like
problems?
It, I like it. I'm not sold on the potions though. Well,
Oh, for God's sake. Well, you
because
want burgers?
you lose the legacy then.
Oh, you want permanent effects?
Well, maybe like stat caps. If your boy exceeds a stat cap, maybe.
Oh, they can only learn so much.
Yeah, so you can't
Oh.
just grind scout babies down.
No, that would be horrible.
Machine.
But
Yeah.
scout babies don't know anything, so you wouldn't
Yeah.
get anything
Yeah,
from grinding
yeah.
them anyway.
But I think
They're
Greg's
tier one
it's
boys.
a good point about like because then if you just put them into potions, that kind of takes away from like the fatherhood element a little bit.
I
Yeah,
do
I-
like the idea of having your son as a potion on the wall.
Yeah.
So not like ever drinking it.
Oh,
You're just
yeah.
like, oh.
Have a
That's
sip of Kenny.
It's like
that's
the
a
ashes.
89.
That was a good year.
Yeah, that's a very good year. Yeah, so I backtracked completely and I'm with you on the potions.
Oh, so you don't like when you said legacy, that was a good definition
Then you
of it,
can
right?
have legacy in the potions, and
So-
it is a better visual having like a bottle of something on the
What
wall.
if they age, do they become more potent? So like you leave it for a while, it's like, oh, it's only got like +3. You leave
Yeah.
it becomes vintage.
Suddenly-
it's a +5.
Suddenly
like
you
it's
got plus 10 Carl.
yeah.
Oh, well, you let it ferment a little bit.
Yeah.
You ferment your boy.
Yeah.
I know. I almost feel like it should be the other way around. The longer you leave it,
The worse it
like
gets.
it can go stale. So you kind of want it because there's that feeling of like whenever you have a good item in an
Oh, fuck,
RPG
Larry's
or something,
gone off.
you're like, yeah, exactly. Because like, if you find like a great one-use potion or something in an RPG, for me, like I'm always like, I'm just going to save this until I need it for a boss or something, and I just fucking save it until the end of the game.
Yeah.
But so if the potions degrade,
Yeah.
you're forcing people to use them, like soon, rather than just them sitting on the shelf.
Yeah,
and they
I
have to
think,
think about those decisions.
I think the same with like gear as well. Gear can be lost forever if you send it. You can maybe end up with a horde of just like chest plates and swords and bows and all these different things. But there's a chance if your boy dies, you lose that armor forever.
If your boy
I
boy
think you should
dies,
100% lose it.
Yeah.
but
and
if your
then-
boy dies, could that then become potential loot for next boys?
Oh.
Oh, I see. So previous boys become chests.
And maybe at the entrance to the dungeon, every boy that you have lost in that dungeon, their head is like mounted on a spike outside of
Oh,
it. So
yeah.
you see the amount of
And I
boys that
do
you've
feel like you
lost.
should have to name every single one of them so you get attached.
Oh yeah, they should be
Yeah,
named.
yeah,
Yeah.
Can you
And
think of
also,
any names?
I already had a Kenny and a Larry and a
Kenny and a
Carl.
Larry.
Keith.
Keith.
Oh.
You've got to have a Keith.
I thought
Peter.
they're not very fantasy names.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
also women names.
Yeah, we
yeah.
don't do fancy names. in this.
Beowulf.
Beowulf, yeah, sure.
Lauren.
Charles. Charles is quite a fantasy name.
Yeah,
Brian.
Brian, yeah.
Reginald.
I've got
Reginald.
another little feature to add.
yeah.
If you're
Please.
really proud of one of your boys and you
Yeah.
send him in, you think he's going to do great, but he dies. You're going to want to.
Is that a feature?
You're going to want to do something, right? So you can
Okay.
send in not a scout baby, but like a scout,
A retrieval child.
a retrieval child to
Oh.
retrieve the body.
Insurance baby.
Yeah. Baby.
Yeah.
He wears a suit. He's got a briefcase.
Boss baby.
Yeah. He's got a
And
briefcase.
then you can either like grind that body down, or you can taxidermy it or something, put it on the
Oh,
wall,
yes. Stuff
Oh.
your boy.
stuff the boy.
Stuff the boy. Please never look me in the eye and say stuff the boy again.
Wait, so how does this? So you lose one of your favored boys in the dungeon,
yeah.
and but then you have you can send a baby in to retrieve the body.
Probably not a
Maybe-
baby. I don't think it would make it, because they've got to make
Okay.
it as far as this guy did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To get the body back.
But then would they be retreading already tripped traps and dead bodies of
Oh,
the stuff that
maybe,
your
yeah.
good boy did?
Yeah, maybe.
Um,
There may be some more.
maybe you have to give a baby something like a
Maybe it costs
quite an expensive messenger bag or something. And you can send the baby in, you're like, he might get the stuff back. If he doesn't, I've wasted 2,000. If he does, then I've got all my good boy back.
Yeah, I feel like the babies are a bit like the imps in Dungeon Keeper, where they just kind of like wander around.
Yeah, they just do their own things. You can send them on little tasks. Yeah.
Yes, my lord.
You
Off
can,
I go then.
Send them off to do little tasks.
So maybe they're not actually. Maybe to avoid any problems, we make them. They're not human.
Whoa,
It's something else.
Let's not change the theme, Alex. You're
No.
Dungeon Daddy.
No, I like them being
I think,
Yeah.
I think
human
you should
babies.
send
It's funny.
scout babies. Maybe you just have like a roster of babies, and you can give one like a little telescope, and that's a little scout baby.
Right.
You can give one a messenger bag, that's a little retrieval baby.
If a
Maybe you
if
can have just like a little lockpick, give a lockpick to a baby, and it starts unlocking different routes in the thing for you, like before it gets,
so now the
clubbed by an
baby's
ogre.
is a whole different thing to actual boys.
Yeah,
now.
I mean,
They
babies,
perform a different
Babies become
function.
boys.
babies become boys, but you're trying
The
to
ones
make
that
use
survive become boys.
You're trying to make use of pre-boys.
Okay.
Maybe they're not
Pre-fucking
babies.
hell.
Maybe they're just pre-boys. You're just trying to make use of pre-boys, but if they grow up to
that
be boys,
classic saying.
make use of
Okay,
pre-boys.
yeah.
Eventually, they'll be boys
Nice.
until they grow up to be men.
Okay.
Or women.
That's
And then
is
you
that the
could
tagline?
grind them
Or-
down
or
or
women, yeah.
taxidermy them or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Great. Love it.
there you go.
Love the game.
So
So, Dungeon Daddy's Crystals of Wisdom. Was it Crystal of Wisdom?
Crystal of Wisdom.
Crystal of Wisdom.
can you sum it up for
You
us,
play.
Tom?
No, you play as what?
So, Crystal of Wisdom, Dungeon Daddy.
Other way
Or-
around.
Let's
Dungeon
just
Daddy.
call it Dungeon Daddy.
I
for
think
God's
Dungeon
sake.
Daddy.
Drop
thing-
the crystal.
Dungeon Daddy and the Crystal of Wisdom.
The thing is, we're having a lot of long names on
too
the
long.
podcast.
Yeah,
recently,
we
and
just
it's like they're becoming illegible on the thumbnail.
Dungeon
so, for the
Daddy.
sake of the thumbnail,
But-
Dungeon Daddy.
I love the idea that it's called Dungeon Daddy and the Crystal
I
of
agree
Wisdom.
with you, but for clickability.
Yeah.
For clickability, I
All
guess
right, okay,
people-
hang on. Okay, thumbnail Dungeon Daddy, title Dungeon Daddy Crystal of
Yeah,
Wisdom.
there you go.
Dungeon Daddy and the Crystal of Wisdom.
And the
It's
Crystal
like
of
an
Wisdom.
Indiana Jones
No,
film.
but you are the Crystal of Wisdom. Dungeon Daddy is the Crystal of
Dungeon
Wisdom.
Daddy, the Crystal of Wisdom.
Yeah.
The Dungeon Daddy, who is also the Crystal of Wisdom,
Yeah.
is a game in which you recruit a lot of boys or girls to put through rigorous trials, spike traps, goblins, skelebobs, lava pits,
Yeah.
pitfalls, all these different things, to eventually train them up to send on an actual dungeon mission in which they get as far as they can, or hopefully succeed,
Yeah.
and bring back knowledge and information for your future boys to do their own runs. You can send people off and they die and they lose all their knowledge that you've trained them, or you can keep them, grind them down into your Crystal of Wisdom
Yeah.
so that future ones have a legacy of previous boys' knowledge.
Or maybe put them into potions and
Or,
have them
or-
on the
or
shelf.
possibly put them
next
into a
to you.
potion. Maybe when you grind them down into the Crystal of Wisdom, they keep
Yeah.
one knowledge stat. If you put them into a potion, it's 5 uses, but they keep every knowledge stat of that boy.
Wow. Okay.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, and you're trying to get to the end of the game, which is the final dungeon, and it's super tough, filled with every single trap.
So there is an end. There is an end game.
There's an end dungeon, and it's mega difficult. But you need a mega knowledgeable boy.
So just to quickly recap,
girl.
how did the initial pitch that start? How did that start off? That was a rogue. that was a roguelike. Right?
success. This is the sequel.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. We've got on.
The initial pitch was you're just defending a roguelike dungeon by placing your own stuff, and the adventurer levels up. But then it became a point where you are actually training the adventurer.
I feel
go
like this
through
is
dungeons.
this is almost the perfect pitch please episode because we've started off with an idea that has then grown in. That was started off pretty solid already.
Yeah.
That has then grown into something that is like
Dungeon Daddy
an
and the Crystal
actual
of Wisdom.
brilliant game that I personally would play.
I would play the ever loving shit out of this. I would play it to death. I wouldn't make it because I've got no idea how. Because that's me. I'm not a game dev. However,
I feel like you don't need to say that every week.
I need to say it every time. Okay, I think for us, our stat needs to be: would you play it, and do you think it's cool? I would play it, and I think it's awesome.
I agree on both counts.
Okay, you've now got
I
3.
have 2 questions.
You
Will yet again does not understand the format.
okay? All right, you have 2 questions. Go quickly.
Is it a platformer?
No.
What is it?
What, like side scrolling?
In my head, it looks like K-Blazers.
It's in my head, it's top down.
In my head, it's top down.
All right, okay.
Oh, my head.
okay, well,
it was K. It started top down, and now
it
it's
can be.
K-Blazers.
It can be.
Okay.
What's your second question?
I can't remember. Oh yeah. Can you send multiple boys into one dungeon?
The multi-boy dungeons.
Not at the same time, right? Surely.
I don't know. I like it.
A little gang of boys.
Maybe.
Love to
In,
see that.
maybe in
You
the
can-
Crystal of Wisdom 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Maybe you can send multiple
You
boys.
can either like train up one boy to be your mega boy, or
Yeah.
you can train up like 5.
Oh, and you
boys
send like a
they're
load of squires.
A nice
An
little
army
team,
of.
yeah.
Oh,
like,
I also
shit
forgot
boys.
you can send babies in to be scouts or
Scouts, okay.
messengers.
I think that's a
Uh,
big
that was
part.
Train
another-
5.
yeah.
and
That was
they
a big part
come
of that.
together
Yeah.
to form some sort
And
of
you adopt
Voltron
them,
esque
yeah.
You
big
adopt
boy.
them. Yeah.
And you got to pay money to adopt
So,
them.
so Will, 3
Fabulous.
questions. Would you make it?
Yep.
Would you play it?
Yep.
And do you think it's cool?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm gonna make it.
You,
Holy
Will is
shit.
actually going to make this.
He's gonna start it as soon as he leaves the stream. I can't wait.
Greg, would you play it?
Yes, if Will will let me.
Okay.
He needs written permission.
I'll give you a key, Greg. Yeah, sure.
Would you personally make it?
No.
Why
I feel
not?
like I'm stealing Will's idea then.
That's my fucking idea. That's how this podcast works.
That's not how
No.
game development works.
It's my
But you
idea
wouldn't
now,
make
Tom.
it.
No, I would make it. Yeah.
Oh, you would make it?
Yes. The problem is like feature creep with this idea though, because there's so many.
I mean, there's
silly things you
potential
keep
for it,
adding.
yeah. But I think if there's a million features and they're all cool, it's not feature creep.
Yeah, I like it.
And the third thing, do you think it's cool?
Yeah, I do think it's cool. I also think we should have a twist at the end, the classic video game twist, where
Oh.
the dungeon daddy is the baddie.
Oh.
Your boy
You're the
turns on
baddie.
you.
And you become
your boy
dungeon
turns.
baddie.
Oh my god, your boy! You have to then build a dungeon to stop your boy, your ultra powerful boy. Oh my god! What a miserable ending for a game that is.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
I
I
like
love
that.
it. Yeah.
And then
Oh,
he
shit.
smashes
That's
the
the
crystal.
final boss.
I am all for dungeon daddy to dungeon baddie. That's that's good shit.
Okay, would you make it?
Yeah.
Would you play it?
Yeah.
Do you think it's cool?
Yeah.
How
Oh
cool.
my god.
Oh, cool.
How cool.
Yeah.
Well, I
That-
think that's probably the. I feel like we've been saying this a lot recently, but I think that is probably the most successful pitch we've had.
We've had some real fucking bangers recently, haven't we?
You're smashing it.
They really
Tom.
highlight
well
the
done.
stinkers. They do.
Round of applause for Tom, everyone. Good pitch.
Oh,
Thanks.
thank you.
guys. And
Well done,
with
Tom.
that,
Thanks.
I have a
thank you,
question.
yes, Will.
How does the training actually work?
You.
Why didn't you ask this when we were doing it?
It
I'm
works.
just thinking about how I'm going to make it next week. How's it going to work?
You can figure that out.
Oh,
Well,
all right,
thank
fine.
you, Will, for coming onto the podcast. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Chris.
all right.
Everyone just nodded, which is great
It was
podcasting.
a
Brilliant.
pleasure for having me.
And
Well, there's a
finally,
pleasure for having him.
finally, thank you, Alex.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Alex.
Tom.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank
Tom?
you, my beautiful boys.
We'll see each other, and I'm sure you, Chris, next time.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye, 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 bye.